The biggest problem with WWE today is that they keep relying on surprise returns from old stars and one-off shock value moments instead of creating new stars. From the 1980s to the 2000s, WWE stars weren't just wrestlers, they were larger-than-life icons who became part of pop culture and mainstream entertainment. Names like Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and even John Cena transcended wrestling and became global icons recognized by millions who had never watched a single match. And it wasn't just the top main event stars. Guys like Kane, Big Show, Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, Chris Jericho, and DX were household names that even your mother could identify. But fast forward to today, and almost nobody on the roster has that crossover appeal. Apart from the top guys like Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, none of the current roster has that mainstream appeal. And even those two are barely well known outside wrestling circles. Ask a random person on the street to name 5 current WWE wrestlers, and most of them wouldn't be able to do it. There's a major shortage of star power, and it's safe to say that once Reigns and Cody are gone, WWE is going to run into serious problems drawing casual viewers. So, how did we get here? How did we go from a stacked roster of mainstream stars to a collection of generic, obscure performers? What led to WWE stars going from pop culture icons to relatively unknown athletes? And why doesn't WWE create stars anymore? Let's find out. Before we get to the root cause of the issue, we need to take a quick trip down memory lane to understand the history of how WWE made stars and why the star-making system broke down. When Vince McMahon wanted to make WWF national in the 1980s, he needed a legit mainstream star to be the face of his company. That's when Hulk Hogan stepped up as the first true crossover wrestling superstar. Prior to becoming the face of the WWF, Hogan had already appeared in Rocky III and had developed genuine mainstream appeal outside of wrestling. This crossover recognition led to collaborations with celebrities like Mr. T and gave birth to the Rock and Wrestling connection that brought wrestling into living rooms across America. Hogan wasn't just a wrestler, he was a cultural phenomenon who appeared on talk shows, had his own cartoon series, and became a household name that transcended wrestling. While the new generation era that followed had amazing in-ring talents like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, none of them possessed the same mainstream appeal as Hogan. They were loved by hardcore fans, but largely unknown to the casual public. But then, in the late 90s, everything changed. In 1997, the WWF was being demolished by WCW in the Monday Night Wars. Monday Nitro was consistently beating Raw in the ratings every single week, and Vince McMahon quickly needed something revolutionary to turn the tide. This desperation gave birth to the Attitude Era, and it was spearheaded by none other than Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin's anti-authority, beer-drinking, middle-finger-raising persona struck a chord with audiences in a way wrestling hadn't seen since Hogan's peak. His feuds with Vince created must-see television that drew mainstream media attention and attracted casual viewers back to wrestling. Simultaneously, The Rock emerged as another breakout star. His charisma, catchphrases, and ability to work both as a heel and a face made him equally popular. The Rock brought Hollywood-level entertainment to wrestling, and his unique personality felt authentic. The Attitude Era became wrestling's golden age precisely because of this plethora of larger-than-life characters. Beyond Austin and Rock, you had Kane's supernatural presence, The Undertaker's dark mystique, DX's rebellious attitude, Jeff Hardy's recklessness, and Mick Foley's multiple personalities. Each brought something unique to the table, and fans could connect with different aspects of these larger-than-life personas. But then, in the early 2000s, disaster struck for WWE's star-making system. As The Rock left for Hollywood and Stone Cold's career was cut short by injuries, WWE suddenly found itself without major stars. The company had become dependent on these megastars, and when they departed, there was no one ready to fill that massive void. Names like Triple H and Brock Lesnar stepped up to the plate, but they didn't have the draw or the appeal of The Rock and Austin. This crisis taught Vince McMahon a harsh lesson about the double-edged sword of creating superstars. He had made Hulk Hogan the face of his company, only to watch him jump ship to rival WCW. He had built Stone Cold and The Rock into mainstream celebrities, only to see them leave wrestling entirely to chase better opportunities. McMahon began to realize that creating stars bigger than the WWE brand itself was a dangerous game that could leave his company vulnerable. From this point forward, WWE's philosophy shifted dramatically. Vince didn't want anyone to exceed the WWE brand. The company itself needed to be the star, not any individual performer. but McMahon still understood that he needed at least one key franchise player for each generation to carry the company forward. During the PG era, that responsibility fell to John Cena. He became the hand-picked face of the company for almost a decade. Cena was positioned as the ultimate good guy, a role model who could appeal to the kids. But even Cena's incredible run had its limitations. When his shelf life as the top guy came to an end, Vince McMahon identified his next golden boy and began the long process of building Roman Reigns into his successor. Reigns' journey perfectly captured WWE's modern star-making challenges. His initial push was met with rejection from audiences who felt he was being artificially pushed over more deserving performers like Rollins and Ambrose. The company persisted despite years of negative crowd reactions and eventually pivoted Reigns into his tribal chief character. This transformation finally connected with audiences and led to a historic championship reign that established him as a main event star and gave him mainstream recognition. However, this process took nearly a decade and required multiple character overhauls. Compare this to the Attitude Era, where stars like Austin and Rock organically developed and caught fire with audiences in a fraction of that time. The difference reveals how WWE's current approach to star creation has become increasingly artificial and corporate-driven, rather than allowing natural charisma and fan connection to dictate the journey. So now that we've revisited the evolution of WWE's star-making system, let's look at the three main reasons why this system failed and why WWE doesn't create stars anymore. The first and most damaging reason is that WWE simply doesn't want anyone to exceed the brand name anymore. This corporate-first mentality stops the company from pulling the trigger on potential breakout stars even when they're staring them right in the face. Take L.A. Knight, for example. He has the natural charisma, excellent mic skills, genuine crowd connection, and all the ingredients needed for mainstream stardom. The audience is practically begging WWE to push him to the moon. But the company hesitates. They're worried that if Knight becomes too big, he might use that success to grab opportunities outside wrestling, just like The Rock did. They'd rather keep him at a manageable level of popularity than risk creating someone who could outgrow their control. Or take Drew McIntyre, for example. McIntyre has the physique, he can talk on the mic, and he is amazing in the ring. But even then, WWE is afraid to push him as the undisputed top guy. They're afraid that he might get injured like Austin, or he might leave WWE for a better deal at AEW. This same pattern repeats across the roster. Performers who show organic fan connection and breakout potential are often held back or given stop-start pushes that prevent them from reaching that crucial tipping point where they become legit stars. WWE has become so paranoid about losing control that they've sabotaged their own star-making process. But this is not the only reason. This second factor is the biggest hurdle that's stopping WWE from creating stars in today's day and age. The second major issue is that WWE has become too soft in today's TikTok age. Wrestlers are more concerned about making reels and pandering to a small section of fans than appealing to mainstream audiences. Hulk Hogan became a megastar because WWE was willing to push boundaries with the American hero versus foreign heel storylines that tapped into global cultural tensions. Hogan's battles with the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, and other foreign antagonists felt meaningful because they tackled themes relevant to society and patriotism. During the Attitude Era, guys like DX, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin became cultural icons because wrestlers were doing genuinely crazy, unpredictable things that shocked audiences and got them emotionally invested. Austin driving a beer truck to the ring, The Rock's unhinged promos, DX's unscripted shenanigans, Kane setting people on fire, Undertaker abducting Stephanie, Triple H breaking into Randy Orton's home, and backstage brawls that seemed legitimately dangerous. These moments had the entire world talking and garnered mainstream media coverage. But that level of authentic intensity isn't allowed in today's corporate WWE environment. Today's storylines are soft and sanitized. Every feud is centered around settling who's the better wrestler. Every promo is about why the star deserves to be champion or how they're better in the ring than their opponent. These speeches never appeal to casual audiences outside the WWE bubble and barely get any mainstream attention. Even the backstage brawls feel safe, predictable, and choreographed to the point where they generate no excitement. Everything is sanitized and designed not to offend anyone, which ironically offends wrestling fans who crave that authenticity and unpredictability of the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era. And this ties in perfectly with the third and perhaps the most notorious obstacle stopping Triple H and WWE from creating the next big breakout star. The third critical problem is that the TKO era has become completely risk-averse when it comes to building stars. Instead of investing time and creative energy into building homegrown stars, WWE consistently takes the easy route by capitalizing on names from the past era and internet celebrities. They bring in guys like Cena, The Rock, Brock Lesnar, Stone Cold, and The Undertaker to bank off their existing star power. Instead of pushing names like LA Knight, they'll throw money at performers like Logan Paul, Jelly Roll, IShowSpeed, and KSI because these personalities already have established fan bases and social media followings. Instead of investing in better presentation for the current stars with banger theme songs and cinematic titantrons, they'll throw that money at celebs like Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B to make one-off appearances. While this strategy provides short-term publicity and social media buzz, it actually hurts long-term star creation. Every spot given to a celebrity guest is a spot that could have gone to developing an actual WWE performer. Every main event segment featuring a YouTube star is a missed opportunity to elevate someone from the active roster into stardom. This strategy represents the worst kind of short-sighted thinking. If this trend continues, it won't be long before we get Logan Paul versus Mr. Beast in the main event of WrestleMania. WWE wants the quick money and instant social media metrics instead of investing in the slow, organic process of character development that creates lasting stars. Building someone like Stone Cold or The Rock takes months and years of consistent storytelling, character evolution, and gradual audience investment. But modern WWE's quarterly earnings mentality makes them prioritize immediate returns over long-term star power. The irony is that these celebrity appearances often expose how lackluster WWE's actual roster appears by comparison. When a Logan Paul match generates more excitement than most of the full-time roster, it highlights just how badly the company has failed at creating characters and storylines for their own talent. When Bad Bunny has a better match than most of the male roster, it shows how watered down the product has become. The harsh reality is that WWE has backed itself into a corner. The company that gave us Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock now struggles to create stars that casual fans even recognize. This isn't a talent problem. The current roster is arguably more athletically gifted than ever before. It's a creative and philosophical problem rooted in fear. Fear of losing control, fear of taking risks, fear of authentic storytelling that might generate controversy. Unless WWE rediscovers its willingness to take creative risks, to invest in long-term character development, and allow performers to organically connect with the audience, the star shortage will only get worse. When Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes eventually step away, WWE may find itself facing its biggest crisis since the Monday Night Wars. Except this time, the enemy isn't another wrestling company. It's their own corporate mentality that has forgotten what made wrestling stars truly special in the first place.